Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have finished another 5 books, so I have a wrap up for you today. Let's just jump right into it. The first one that I read is The Space Between the Stars, and this book I picked up at Parnassus because I've been in a sci-fi kick, and so I wanted more sci-fi books. And this one sounded exactly like what I've been looking for, which is really literary fiction with a sci-fi twist. It is sort of along the lines of The Inverted World or Neon Green in that it is completely human-based, so there are no other species in this universe, but it does have sci-fi elements to it. So basically, humans inhabit a number of planets in like a little galaxy solar system, and the main character is living on one of the more remote planets when a virus takes hold, and it is affecting only humans, so none of the other animals, like the animals, horses, cows, all of those are perfectly immune to it. It's only affecting humans. And once someone gets the virus, you can get it once and you can survive, but only if you're in isolation. So basically when you are around other people, it mutates and you get a different version of the virus, and then essentially if you get it more than once, you turn to dust is sort of how it is. So basically the end stage of the virus is that it completely engulfs the person and they are turned to dust. So while 99.9% of the human race has been killed by this virus, there are no like bodies lying around. It's just dust floating everywhere. And that was like, every time that was kind of brought forward, it was such a fascinating thing for me. So like she would go into a room and it would be like a coat of dust and you would know that there had been a family there or something like that. So that was really fascinating. Basically we're following Jamie Allenby, the main character, who, like I said, was on a remote planet. She thinks she's the only one that survived at this point because essentially the statistics were saying it was like 99.999% of the population, so very small percentage lived. And so she is trying to find other people. She ends up with this space crew of like hodgepodge people. Somebody who was passing by heard her distress beacon, landed and picked her up and a couple of other people. There is like a religious aspect to this, and the woman who's like the religious person, a religious kind of zealot, is insane. Like she's mentally ill. She kind of has reason to be as we get further in. I can't really explain that without spoiling some things, but essentially it's just a really interesting literary fiction with a sci-fi twist. So it's got the sci-fi, it's got the dystopian, but it is overall a literary fiction novel. And I think that's why on Goodreads it's gotten such low reviews, is because I think it was marketed as science fiction dystopian, when really it's more a literary fiction that has those elements. So I really enjoyed this and I would highly recommend it. And then we have Trio by Sue G. This is a lovely novel. This came in a moth box, I think the very first moth box, and I just thought this was so beautiful. It's really, really wonderfully written, and it is this picture of grief and how it manifests in different ways and people working through their grief in different ways, but it's also a love story, and I thought it was beautiful. It has music woven in and out of it. If you are a fan of music, I feel like this is something that you would really be touched by. I just love the kind of quiet North England, I don't know, it just had a quiet quality to it in the same way that Collie Undertow did, and I think these two are in the same box. It's just lovely and peaceful, and it was like the book I didn't know I wanted when I read it, but it just was absolutely a joy to read. I was going through a really stressful time at work and in life, and reading this was very calming. So I would definitely recommend this if you are at all into music, or if you like those kind of quiet novels. This one is perfect. And then I did pick up another pair of Hogarth Shakespeare Edition retellings and the original play. So Othello is kind of an amazing look at how racism really influences people and their judgment, and just like, this is a play that still speaks to us to this day. I was reading about how like it is one of the plays that is more often seen in modern times, because when you adapt it, it still has a lot of real world analogies or things that it's very relatable in that way. Essentially, it's about a commander who is black, who is basically so he ends up marrying in secret the daughter of, I think, a duke or something like that, somebody who's like in a noble family, and all of these people are very jealous and they don't think that he deserves her, and so they go on this whole mission to sabotage, and it's a tragedy, so obviously, you know, tragic things happen. And I just thought that this was really one of Shakespeare's more interesting plays, so I did enjoy that. Tracy Chevalier, who wrote Girl with the Pearl Earring, does the retelling in a very interesting way. So it's set on a playground with a bunch of 6th graders, and Othello is basically played by this boy Osei, who is a new kid from Ghana who has family who are diplomats. And it's basically all set in one day where he is establishing himself at this new school. He's trying to make friends, but he's the only black kid at that school. Like, there are no other black children at that school. And so it just follows him and his relationship with this girl named Dee, who is a popular kid that all of the boys are kind of interested in, but she's not really interested in them, and how they foster the jealousy like you see in Othello, but in a playground elementary school setting. And it was so interesting. Like, I just thought that this is definitely up there in one of the stronger retellings, because I feel like this is something that you can take in so many directions, and this is unexpected. Like, really unexpected in the way that it was translated to a playground setting, and I loved this. I did the audiobook of both of these. They were phenomenal. And yeah, this is up there with Hagseed as my favorites in the Hogarth Shakespeare retellings. Loved it. And then the last book that I did read this month was this lovely little nonfiction book. This is The Little Bookshop of Big Stone Gap, and this is written by Wendy Welch, who is one of the owners of the Lonesome Pine, Tales of the Lonesome Pine bookstore in Big Stone Gap. So Big Stone Gap is the bookstore's in a tiny town that's like that little sliver of Virginia that is between Kentucky and Tennessee, and it's very much Appalachia, and this is about how they came there to live and decided they were going to open a bookstore, and the pushback they got from a small town and them being outsiders. Her husband is Scottish. She is from Tennessee originally, but basically they weren't born and raised there, so they were outsiders. And the way that people treated them, the struggles that they went through to open this bookstore, and then also what it is like to own a bookstore and be a community center, and how once they established themselves, they became a real part of the community. It talks about the first time that they realized that they were a part of the community and really accepted, and just I laughed through this whole thing. I would read passages to my husband. This is so good. If you like books about books, or if you're interested in what it takes to run a bookstore, or you just like to read about bookstores, this is right up your alley. The Bookshop book by Jen Campbell, I think maybe references this at some point, I don't know, but if you liked that one, you would absolutely love this. And I just loved it. And Wendy has the same kind of sense of humor as me, and she's fantastic, and I really want to make a trip up to Big Stone Gap to see their bookstore, because I think I'd be right at home. Alright, so that is it. Those are the 5 books that I finished recently, and I am just happy to be reading more and enjoying the books I'm reading. And basically, let's hope the rest of the summer goes that way. We have a couple of readathons coming up, and we are in the middle of Tome Topple, so hopefully it will continue along that same vein. Anyways, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!